Alright folks, it's Thursday and you can already feel the buzz in the air. The weekend's on the horizon, Easter's coming up, and while some of you might be sorting out your chocolate stash or finalizing plans with family, we've got our eyes locked on something else entirely, Celtic at Hampden. There's a different kind of anticipation building, because we're not just heading into any game, we're returning to a ground that's become a fortress for us over the years. And with the form we've shown there under our current manager, it's fair to say we're walking in with a bit of swagger. This Sunday marks our 14th trip to Hampden Park since our current gaffer took over, and guess what? We've won every single one of the previous 13. That's not just a good record, that's domination. That's turning up and making the National Stadium feel like home. Whether it's cup semis or finals rain or shine, we've found a way to rise to the occasion and get the job done. Think back to the 23rd of October 2016, that League Cup semi-final against Rangers. We kept it clean, grabbed a solid win, and from there it snowballed. Just over a month later, on the 27th of November, we faced Aberdeen in the final and absolutely swept them aside with a 3-0 masterclass. Fast forward to April 23rd the following year. Another showdown with Rangers, another clean sheet, another win, this time 2-0 in the Scottish Cup semi. Then it was back to Aberdeen for the final in May 2017, where we edged them tune with a moment of magic that still lives in the memory of every supporter. Later that year in October, we met Hibernian in yet another League Cup semi-final and came out on top with a thrilling 4-2 win. We kept that fire burning with a composed 2-0 win over Motherwell in the final the following month. In 2018, we went back to Hampden in the spring, April 15th, and absolutely battered Rangers 4-0 in a semi-final that was as one-sided as they come. And we wrapped up that campaign with another win over Motherwell. 2-0 in the Scottish Cup final on May 19th. We returned that December 2nd of the month and nicked a 1-0 win against Aberdeen in the League Cup final. Then after a brief pause due to global events and schedule changes, we resumed our Hampden run with a dramatic Scottish Cup semi-final against Aberdeen in April 2024. It finished 3-3, but we kept our nerve in the shootout and booked our spot in the final. And what a final it was. May 25th, another Old Firm clash and another Celtic win, 1-0 to lift the Scottish Cup yet again. November 2nd came next and we weren't holding back. A 6-0 demolition of Aberdeen in the League Cup semi-final. Complete dominance from start to finish. And then on December 15th, it was another final showdown with Rangers. A tense, a fair 3-3 after full time. But once again, we held firm in the penalties and raised the trophy. 13 matches, 13 wins, 7 trophies, 34 goals scored, only 9 conceded, 9 clean sheets. That's a record any club in the world would be proud of. We've done it against Aberdeen, Rangers, Motherwell, and Hibernian, 4 different opponents. 5 times against Aberdeen, 5 against Rangers, 2 against Motherwell, and 1 against Hibs. And now, for the first time under this manager, we face St. Johnstone at Hampden, looking to extend that flawless record. It's not just about history anymore. It's about keeping the momentum, maintaining the standard, and proving again why this Celtic side is built for the big stage. This streak, this run of success, it isn't luck. It's preparation, it's mentality, and it's belief. You don't win 13 in a row at a venue like Hampden unless you've got something special going on. And while we head into this next challenge, under the guidance of a relatively new manager, there's every reason to believe the winning mentality is alive and well. Now, I know that was a bit of a long walk through memory lane, but it's important to understand the context before Sunday. Hampden's not just a neutral venue anymore. For us, it's sacred ground. It's where legends are made, where silverware is won, and where Celtic fans have grown used to celebrating. So if you're heading there this weekend, soak it all in. You're witnessing something remarkable. A run that could go down as one of the great golden eras in our history at the National Stadium. And while we're talking about big stages, there's another one looming just a few months down the line. The UEFA Champions League playoffs. Now, if you've been keeping up with the latest, you'll know there's been plenty of talk about our coefficient, our position, and whether or not we'll be seeded come the playoff round in late August. It's been a bit of a puzzle, but there's some promising news that came out this week that might just tip the scales in our favor. I've talked before about the 8 teams with higher coefficients than us. Those are the ones who could take The seeded spots ahead of us if they make it to the playoff round. The challenge is clear. We need at least 4 of them to get knocked out before then. Seems like a big ask, right? But here's the thing, one of them is already out of the picture. And not because they slipped up, far from it. In fact, they've secured a spot directly in the group stage, which frees up a seeded slot for the rest of us. We're talking about the champions of Greece, Olympiacos. They've clinched their ticket to the Champions League phase. And while it's not yet 100% official, all signs point to it being locked in. That's huge for us. Not only does it remove one obstacle, but it also potentially sets a path for us to move up in the seeding order. They've got a former Celtic player in their ranks too. Whether he stays there next season or not only, time will tell, but he's going to the big stage. So with Olympiacos out of our way, we need 3 more teams to fall short. And if you take a look at the league tables across Europe, the situation isn't as daunting as it once seemed. Some of these clubs are third in their domestic leagues, some are trailing by 5, 6, even 7 points. And they've only got 6 or 7 games left to play. It's a tight race, and the margins are slim. One slip up, one bad result, and the door opens wider for us. Even the teams currently in top spots are just hanging on by a thread. Copenhagen and Ferencvaros, for instance, both are leading their leagues by a single point. That's nothing. A draw here, a loss there, and suddenly they're the ones sweating over qualification while we're edging closer to a seeded position. And even if they do win their leagues, they'll still need to survive 2 tough qualifying rounds just to get to the playoffs. That's far from a guarantee. Champions League qualification is ruthless. One off night, one dodgy VAR decision, and a season's dream is over. Celtic fans know that better than most. We've seen it. We've lived it. And that's why, despite all the moving parts, I'm feeling genuinely optimistic. The pieces are starting to fall our way. And if this trend continues, we could find ourselves seeded and in a much better position to push for the group stage. But being seeded doesn't mean we'll cruise through. Let's be real. The playoff round is always stacked with strong teams. Even the so-called easier ties can turn into traps. You're talking about national champions clubs with winning pedigrees and players with a point to prove. Still, if we can avoid facing the very best right out the gate, we give ourselves a fighting chance. And sometimes that's all you need. I'm keeping tabs on every development, every twist and turn. And believe me, I'll be the first to update you when the odds shift. We're not there yet, but we're on the right path. And for a club like Celtic, that's half the battle. Staying in the mix, giving ourselves a shot and showing Europe what we're made of. In the meantime, the focus stays on Hampden, on keeping the streak alive, on showing St. Johnstone and the rest of the country that when Celtic come to town, especially at the National Stadium, they come to win. Every single time. And while we're building confidence from our Hampden record and watching the playoff picture develop, there's another story unfolding that's worth our attention. Transfers, contracts, and what the summer might look like for Celtic, both in terms of departures and arrivals. Now, nothing's official just yet, but the signs are starting to point towards some serious movement, especially around one key player whose future has been a hot topic lately. There's been a lot of noise about a potential transfer, and it's becoming harder to ignore. Rumors are flying that a clause exists, a release clause, set at around 40 million euros, which would only be active from the 1st to the 15th of July. That's a narrow window, but it's enough time for the right club to come and meet the price and take him away. And the word on the street is that the player himself is open to leaving. In fact, it seems like he already had the intention to move last season, but it didn't quite materialize. This summer, though, things feel different. There's momentum, there's interest, and crucially, there's a clear path for him to take the next step. Clubs have been circling. Some of them reportedly reached out last month trying to gauge the situation, looking to see if they could make something happen. And the thing with this kind of transfer is it's usually the buying clubs that do most of the work behind the scenes, finding out the details, testing the waters before making a formal approach. One name that's come up more than once is a club that might be losing their first choice right back and is actively scouting replacements. It makes sense, and if that transfer happens, it could trigger a domino effect that sees our player heading out the door. But there's more to it than just the selling club and the buyer. There's also the matter of selling clauses. Back in 2021 when we signed this lad, his former club made sure to include a 30% clause on any future profit. That means if we bought him for around £11 million and now he's being sold for the equivalent of 35 million, the profit site's at roughly 24 million pounds. Do the maths and that original club would be due a nice little chunk of that, close to 7 million pounds. That's no small change. For them, it's a tidy reward for developing talent. For us, it's still a massive return and a chance to reinvest properly. Now, his contract does run until 2028, so nobody's expecting him to leave for free, and the club's not under pressure to sell. But when a big offer comes in and the player wants to move, it becomes a different kind of conversation. It's not just about the money, it's about timing. And if that clause is real, and all signs suggest it is, then July is going to be very interesting. And look, let's not pretend that money like that doesn't open doors. With 40 million euros potentially coming in, you're talking about a complete reshaping of the squad. Even if you only spend a portion of it, you're still in a position to strengthen in multiple areas. Maybe bring in another creative midfielder, someone with Champions League experience, maybe reinforce the back line or add depth in wide positions. The potential is massive. And while we've seen some smart signings recently, the opportunity to push things forward with real ambition is sitting right there. At the same time, we've got our eyes on how other former Celtic players are performing across Europe. And it's good news. Two in particular have been getting a lot of praise for their performances since moving on. They're playing regularly, excelling in their roles, and even catching the eye of national teams and bigger clubs. That's a credit to the way they were developed here and the mentality they took with them. It also reflects well on the coaching staff they worked under, some of whom might also be looking at new opportunities in the near future. That's the thing about football. Everything's connected. One player moves, another gets their shot. One coach gets poached, someone else steps up. Right now, there are whispers around one of our former coaches being considered for a bigger job elsewhere. And if that happens, it could open even more doors for people linked to Celtic. And speaking of transitions, there's another situation. We're watching closely a player who looks almost certain to leave his current club soon. The buzz is that he's got a strong desire to move on, and it's been there since last year. This summer could finally be the moment. His current club isn't standing in the way either, especially with a clear release clause in place and interest. Coming from abroad, that move could influence the transfer market in ways that ripple out towards us as well, especially if the buying club is one we'll be competing with on the continental stage. So while we focus on this weekend's clash with St. Johnstone and keep one eye on the Champions League playoffs, the other is firmly fixed on the summer transfer window, because it's shaping up to be one of the most crucial in recent years. The choices made in the next few months could define the trajectory of the team for seasons to come. Whether it's selling at the right time, buying wisely, or holding firm when needed, this is where smart clubs separate themselves from the rest. Tomorrow, we'll dive even deeper into the match ahead, and maybe we'll have a guest. Join in the conversation. There's plenty more to come, and if the last few weeks are anything to go by, the drama's only just getting started. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news. About Celtic FC, don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. In a twist that has sent ripples through Scottish football, whispers from the Far East suggest that Chinese tech mogul Jack Ma is preparing to make a seismic move in the world of European sport by acquiring Celtic Football Club. The very notion of one of the world's most recognizable business figures taking over the Parkhead Giants has ignited fervent speculation across Glasgow and beyond. Could this be the dawn of a new era for the Hoops, with one of Asia's richest men at the helm? Jack Ma, the co-founder of Alibaba and one of China's most storied entrepreneurs, is reportedly intrigued by the unique culture, passionate fan base, and storied history of Celtic. Known not just for his technological empire, but also for his strategic investments across education, health, and sport, Ma's interest is being interpreted by some as more than a fleeting glance. Sources close to his private equity firm, Yunfeng Capital, have confirmed that preliminary assessments are underway. and that the prospect of owning a legacy club like Celtic has become a personal fascination for the billionaire. Ma's global ambitions have always extended beyond commerce, and sport has increasingly found a place in his portfolio. With football's growing popularity in Asia and Celtic's established international following, particularly in Asia and North America, the synergy is clear. Add to that the club's regular presence in European competitions and its undisputed dominance in Scottish football, and one can understand why the Chinese magnate might view Celtic not just as a club, but as a global brand ready for exponential growth under his guidance. This wouldn't be the first time a wealthy investor from outside Europe has eyed the British football scene, but Ma's potential involvement carries a distinctly different weight. Unlike many other speculative buyers, Ma brings with him a reputation for long-term vision, digital innovation, and philanthropic engagement. His presence could usher in a new model of club ownership, one that blends financial muscle with community upliftment and tech-driven modernization. Fans are split between cautious optimism and guarded skepticism as they await clarity on whether this is a serious bid or another billionaire flirtation. What's certain is that Celtic finds itself at a tantalizing crossroads. With domestic dominance continuing and ambitions for continental relevance growing louder, the potential arrival of Jack Ma could mark one of the most transformative chapters in the club's history. For now, Parkhead holds its breath. The Green Brigade, the boardroom, and every pub from Glasgow to Guangzhou has only one question on its lips. Is Jack Ma really coming to paradise? Hello, fan! Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.